just court system.
Well, let's talk about that, because as I understand it, we'll actually talk about this after we look at the part 2 of this video. Bob Shultz went to court challenging something on the basis of the First Amendment. He petitioned the government for a redress of grievances on at least one issue, and it went to the Supreme Court, and he was ignored. In fact, you referred to an injury earlier, and I noticed in his video he actually refers to injury. That's a term right out of the Declaration of Independence.
Yes. Okay. Well, let me explain. I'm not speaking on behalf of Bob Shultz. Or We the People Foundation. It's I just went to the website and yes, I just went to the website and signed up and everything, and went down, and I'm an alternate delegate for basically I could potentially be one of the delegates and then end up going to Philadelphia to the Constitutional Congress. Continental Congress, correct me anyway. And there's
so what's this concept of injury? What is that?
Okay, if one person is damaged by the actions of another, then there has to be a way for you to be able to either approach the elders and all parties be heard, and then a decision be made, so that everybody, even though injury has been performed, restitution can be had, or remedy can be had. In that way, everybody is acting in good faith.
Right.
But and also everything's done peacefully. But whenever good faith remedy is denied, then we revert back to a primitive state of society where everyone is at a potential state of war with one another. And the only way to seek remedy is oftentimes through violence. And so when our court systems don't work, they are forcing us into a condition of either execute violence for remedy or go without remedy.
Okay. Well, now, in this video that we were just listening to, Bob Shultz actually kind of talks about this, because he talks about how the Continental Congress and Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence, said that the people have a right to petition the government. It's not just the First Amendment to the Constitution, for a redress of grievances. And that's part of the reason why we went to war with King George, is that King George wasn't listening to the colonists' grievances. And so the right of the people to petition the government for a redress of grievances is very important, and the government cannot just ignore that. All right? And one of the things that's very interesting about all this is he gives the history of the Magna Carta. And he says that the king at the time, I forget the name of the king at the time, he signed this, he agreed to this deal, and he says that if there is no redress, if somebody petitions him, the king, if there's no redress in 40 days, the people may seize his castles and...
They're given permission to act. And basically in that, you were not allowed to harm the members of the family or anything like that, but you could seize their land and basically hold it ransom, so to speak, until they addressed the grievance.
They had 40 days.
Yes.
Now that's in the Magna Carta. Does that still apply?
The principle always applies. It has always applied through history. It's a very basic principle. The principles of a peaceful relationship. As a matter of fact, Christ, when he was cursing the Pharisees, he said, "Justice, mercy, good faith. These are the weightier matters of the law." And if you want to look it up, it's in Matthew 23 or something like that, I think. But anyway, you see, so basically, if you're upholding justice, mercy, good faith, the definition, that's the definition of love. And law itself derives their authority from these three principles. So most legislation coming out of Congress these days is in violation of at least one of those. Now, any kind of legislation or tradition or something like that violates these principles is nothing more than a pretext for criminal activity. All criminal activity is it's an act of war on some level, either minor, intermediate, or major.
So here, I want to go back to this Magna Carta concept. The king has a period of time, whether or not it's 40 days, we can argue, but certainly he has some period of time the president has some period of time, the government has some period of time to respond to the petitions of the people about the war or invasion of privacy or unconstitutional actions. And at some point, the people have a right to do something. In the old days, seize the castle. Jefferson says they have a right to withhold their money, I guess not pay their taxes. So is this sort of where the We the People Congress is going? Is that you are petitioning the government, you have these specific complaints, and you expect the government to respond to you?
Okay, well, the government will eventually respond in one way or another, but it's our duty. I mean, you know, we have mouths to feed, we have a life to live, and we've got other people's as being patriarchs of families and communities and stuff. We have other people's lives. You know, we are our brother's keeper. You know, we've got other people to watch out for too. So we've got to make sure that society is allowed or can continue on smoothly. So basically, what Bob is doing is our peaceful way of going about this is if these guys are going to act more like a Politburo than our elected officials, then we need to elect new elected officials and create create another constitutional government here.
Okay,
what's
a Politburo?
Politburo. That's basically in Russia. They're political members.
The old Soviet Union, the Communist Party ran the
and that's what
Parliament
America is going to be here in a few years with all of these socialists and other people that are. I mean, shoot, we have people that aren't even American citizens and are running some of our administrations and things. Or if they are American citizens, their first, all of their actions indicate that their first priority is to the country that they also have other citizenship in.
Okay. Well, at this point, Farrell, I think let's take a look at part 2 of the video that we looked at earlier. I should kind of set the stage here because the first part kind of applies now and is relevant now. I should point out that video, the second part we're going to look, both parts were taped last May. And in this second part, Bob Shultz talks about some things that he talks about in the future that actually happened after this was taped. So we'll actually talk about what happened afterward and then why he's doing the things he's doing this year. So let me cue this up here. I have to actually scroll down here. And this one is about 5 minutes. The first one was about 10 minutes long. So let's take a look at this part 2 of Bob Shultz. Okay. So that was part 2 of the two-part thing, and as I explained, that actually was talking about things that happened last year. So when he talked about August, he was talking about August of 2008. So I take it that Bob tried all that, and he took all the petitions to Congress, and apparently they ignored him. And so he's now, I guess, going for Plan B, Farrell, which is the We the People Congress. What's it called, the Continental Congress?
Correct, yes, Continental Congress. And a lot of people, when they hear that, they think Constitutional Congress. No, actually, Constitutional Congress is another one of the things we're trying to avoid. The Constitution is perfectly adequate. It's a good, solid,
You don't want to rewrite the Constitution in a constitutional convention like they did in 1789 or whatever it was.
There's so many elements stacked against us that want to do away with the Constitution that they just they do backflips to see the Constitutional Congress reconvened, and that's what many of them are trying to push for. But anyway, so this is a Continental Congress.
Not constitutional, continental. Okay. Now, do you know what, as I understand it, Bob actually tried to get something done and the U.S. Supreme Court ignored him. Do you know what that was about? Was this about the Obama citizenship thing, or what was that about?
Well, the Obama Citizenship Challenge was his most recent, or one of his most recent. He's got a lot of them. You see, for actually generations, there's been pro se litigants that have been pushing these issues like this before the courts, but time and time again the courts would just refuse to listen or even, well, we found out recently, like in the Fifth Circuit Court, that pro se litigants' paperwork is not even read. It was just stamped denied without even being read.
You're saying that the courts were just ignoring not just petitions, but actual court filings by pro se, meaning people were representing themselves without a lawyer.
For an example, I have 3 years of fighting in the courts, something, and I just couldn't understand it. Every time we filed a stack of briefs, actually it was a brief, and then the district attorney or one of his representatives would write a counter brief, and then we'd read another brief and everything. But when it came time for the judge to read the material, my case, my arguments just kept being denied left and right. And I went on, fought that for 3 years, and then it went to the appellate court. The appellate court wouldn't, they refused to see my case because it was pro se instead of being filed by an attorney or a lawyer or something.
What was your case?